Meeting will come back to order. We are now at the order, or continuing the order of business of school discipline. Ms. Heydrich.
Good afternoon, Tanya Heydrich, Operations Administrator, Legislative Service Office. Before you, you have 26 LSO 0089, Working Draft 0.4, K-12 Public Disciplinary Policies and Procedures. This bill was requested at your last meeting. It creates a new paragraph requiring the state superintendent to develop model policies and procedures to govern student discipline. It's relatively straightforward. It amends Wyoming Statute 21-2202. These are the duties of the state superintendent. And if you look on page 2, lines 5 through 9, that is the language that operationalizes your policy choice. And then secondly, I would state that it does provide that no district is required to adopt those policies. Section 2 on page 2, lines 11 through 14 states that the state superintendent will have those model policies required by Section 1 by July 1st of 2026. And because of that requirement, page 2, lines 16 through 19, it's effective immediately, subject to the committee's questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To your knowledge, are there any statutes right now that prohibit the superintendent from making a model policy?
Is that right?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Kelly, no, but generally, just from a legal standpoint, executive agencies only have those powers dedicated to them by the legislature. And so it's possible if rules were to be enacted, an LSO or the governor's office was to review those, that they may have an interpretation. Those are outside of her statutory authority.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
I like that. That was really fast. Get the 2-page bill.
Look, it's 2 pages. Right. Is there any, does the WDE have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you. Dicky Shaner, Department of Ed. Superintendent Degenfelder prefers 88 as the bill on this.
Thank you. Any questions? Any public test? Senator Scott.
Chairman, it costs us a certain amount of time and effort to do a bill and costs the state some money when we do. Is this bill going to do anything that isn't otherwise going to happen? Is this, would we be better off just killing it right now? Or is this bill got any virtue to it?
Mr. Chair, through you, Senator Scott, I believe there's certainly virtue in it. However, anything that is contemplated to be accomplished in this one, I think can be accomplished in 88.
Follow up? All right, thank you. Senator Office.
I don't remember in 88 where it suggested establishing model policies, though, and I think part of the advantage is looking for small districts that might not want to expend the time or have the capacity to expend the time. I'm trying to think back through 88 real quick. It has a lot of shalls and mays in it about what the districts should do, but doesn't necessarily provide them with any guidance. It seems to me that these are complementary and not redundant. Am I missing something?
Mr. Chair, through you, Senator Rothfuss, particularly with this one where it has the state board doing rules and other things, we took that out of 88. With 88, it could certainly be amended in there to have some model policies drafted by the WDE. We're happy to do that, but rules we didn't think were necessary from the SBE.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Further questions? Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess I'm kind of going to piggyback a little bit on Senator Rothfuss. I'm assuming, but assuming is never good, that each district has some type of discipline plan. And I think that's required by the state, but I'm not positive. So is this just basically to reinforce the fact that they should all have a discipline plan? And they may or may not adopt what the state superintendent chooses to put out there for a model plan. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, through you, Madam Co-Chair, it is required under statute that they have policy right now. I think what this would be doing is just telling the state superintendent to put some model policies out there for them for their consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? All right, thank you.
And I misspoke I was looking at the wrong bill with Senator Rothfuss's question. I apologize.
Further public comment?
Mr. Chairman, Boyd Brown, Executive Director of the Wyoming Association of School Administrators. Again, feel that it's your choice as a policy decision if you want to move forward with this. I would just say that we would be more than happy to send expertise from the superintendent organization to help with drafting those policies if that goes forward. And I'd take any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none. Is there any further public testimony? All right, committee directives. No motion on this bill. All right, we will, nope, where are we? Yes, move on to 26 LSO 90.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ashley Phillips, Legislative Editor with the Legislative Service Office. I'm going to walk you through 26 LSO 90, K-12 categorical grant to assist in student success. At your May meeting, the committee requested a bill draft creating a categorical grant for schools to focus on students' strengths and barriers, helping to reduce risks by providing professional development for teachers. At a high level, this bill draft creates a categorical grant program for 2 years, and it is non-codified, so you will not see it in the green books. So starting on page 1, line 8, section 1, this through page 2, line 13, this subsection creates the categorical grant to provide professional development for all school district employees who may have an impact on student success. And the professional development is to be specifically focused on better understanding student strengths, addressing non-academic reasons for why a student may struggle, and identify what students need to thrive in and outside of class. This also clarifies that this categorical grant would be outside the education resource block grant model. You can see in the staff comment, the way that this subsection is currently drafted, it is for all school district employees that may interact with students, not just classroom teachers. Moving on to page 2, line 24, through page 3, line 4, in subsection B, This subsection it states that award amounts will be based on ADM, and school districts would apply to the Department of Education on or before June 30th, 2026, and June 30th of 2027. Similarly, this is another decision point for the committee. The committee may choose to award a flat dollar amount as opposed to a per ADM amount. And the committee still needs to decide how much they wish that award to be for. The legislature has done it both ways, so that's one of the reasons why. Starting on page 3, line 19, through page 4, line 5, these paragraphs outline the requirements for a school district's application, including the proposal documenting the need for professional development. This includes the proposed program, the estimated number of school district employees, and the estimated number of hours. This also says that it can include information required by the department as necessary. The committee may want to add or change any of these requirements. Moving on to page 4, line 7 through line 17, this outlines the department's requirement to notify districts by August 15th of the respective school year, and requires them to provide written approval or denial and explain why they have made that determination. Subsection D, starting on page 4, line 19, through page 5, line 5, outlines the reporting requirements for districts and that they will report that to the department. Excuse me. And then page 5, lines 7 and 8 give the department authority to promulgate rules to carry out this section. Section 2, starting on page 5, line 10 through line 20, outlines the reporting requirements for the department to the Joint Education Committee. They are directed to report on the findings of the impact of the professional development as reported by the districts, and should include any recommendations for refinement of the education resource block grant model. Section 3, starting on page 5, line 22, through page 6, line 15, contains the appropriation for this grant. As noted earlier, the committee still needs to decide how much they wish to award for this grant. I will point out on page 5, line 22 would be the biennial amount, and on page 6, line 3 would be the annual amount. This section also states that if the appropriation is not enough, the department should make a pro rata reduction in district grant payments. Section 4 is the effective dates. You will note that it provides for a split effective date, excuse me, with subsection A being effective immediately, and subsection B stating that section 3 will be effective July 1st of 2026. This allows school districts to start developing their applications and the department to start the rulemaking process, but still holds the funds that to be awarded under the grant program until the start of the biennium. I will stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So basically, these grants are to be proactive and to kind of help figure out why some of these students are falling behind and to see what they need. Do you see these grants as being something that would be used not so much for teachers, but for maybe custodians, bus drivers, secretaries, those sorts of things, or can districts use it however they wish with anybody that's a district staff member? That's my first question.
Of course. Mr. Chairman, Madam Co-Chairman, as currently drafted, this would apply to anybody who currently works for the school district. If you guys would like to change that, you absolutely can. That's a policy choice for you guys to make.
Madam Chair, I would also add, though, there are some constraints. If you look on page 2, line 5, it is for professional development to better understand and build on student strength and proactively address non-academic reasons why they may fall behind. So wouldn't be for any professional development, it would be for professional development targeting those. And you might recall the discussion about the BAR program at the last meeting. That's what sort of prompted this bill draft. But the wish of the committee was not to specify that particular program.
May I have a follow-up, sir?
Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, then, that was my next question was, if it were just for staff, would it count as part of their professional days? I don't know, in terms of, staff development, or would it be besides that? I mean, I could see this being very effective for people that are not staff, they're staff members, but they're not teachers in the classroom. While teachers are doing their professional development, I could see a lot of other staff members, this could be very helpful for taking this if that was something they so chose and the district chose to apply for these grants. But I just threw that out there because I wasn't sure how that affected professional development days.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairwoman, I think that question is for the Professional Teaching Standards Board and perhaps school districts. I don't have the answer to that.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you. Agenda for this. Is there any public comment on this bill or the Department of Education? Public comment. Good afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Farmer, Wyoming School Boards Association. You just heard that the BAR program referenced. That's building assets, reducing risks. And it's an example of such a professional development program that has been utilized by school districts across Wyoming. Some in sort of a, what would you call it, a pilot phase. How can we make a difference? Just before he left, the superintendent at Converse County School District Number 1 told me a little bit about how that district had recently implemented that program on a pilot basis and had been looking for ways to implement it district-wide, recognizing the impact that it's made, addressing things like student discipline, student-staff relationships, really recognizing the potential good that it can have for a district. So really do support this legislation and encourage you to consider that.
Thank you, Representative Scott, or Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, it seems to me that all the learned professions we deal with have major professional development efforts. Most of the businesses that use such things encourage professional developments. And I know a number of the school districts have quite a professional development program already. Am I right in thinking that they probably all have that, or are there some that don't?
Mr. Chairman, yes, all school districts do have a program of professional development. There are some things that are mandated by the state. So for example, you have to do bloodborne pathogens every year. You have certain items that are mandatory training, suicide awareness, other sorts of things. And then districts have an optional component of what can they add in. I think many districts have more needs for what would we like to do professional development on than what they can possibly get to in the time that's allotted. So districts do have to make choices. What do we feel is the professional development that is best going to address the needs of our district this year? This just helps to make programs that specifically gear towards student success more accessible to that district. Oftentimes, those are proprietary programs that they're paying for a consultant to come in and do for their district. So to the degree that they have that sort of best practice program that they can bring in, as opposed to taking sort of a wild guess at what do we think might work or might not work. This is a strategy that allows them to target that sort of resource, bring it in, and make it part of their program.
Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, why isn't the issue of professional development just one of the things that a competent school district does within its block grant and best dealt with that? Why do we need to enhance the block grant this way when it's really just part of managing a school district?
Mr. Chairman, I would say that there are two, maybe three different types of professional development. There's the mandatory stuff, the stuff you just have to do. There is stuff that is primarily geared towards student success. What are we going to do to help our students achieve academically? And then there's other professional development that might lend toward the climate, the culture, other things like that, that ultimately impact the functioning of the district. The majority of the professional development right now is directed toward academic success of students. What can we do to help those students achieve? So there isn't a lot of room to do those things like the BAR program that affect the climate, the culture, the relationships, that ultimately help to address things like student disciplinary issues.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Boyd Brown, Wyoming Association of School Administrators, Executive Director. Again, in support of this, want to talk about a couple other programs out there. PBIS, which is Positive Behaviors and Interventions and Sports, which is a program that I know some of the districts have done. There's Boys Town model out there that's very positive. There is also the MTSS, which is multi-tiered system of supports for behaviors as well as for academics. So there are a lot of different things out there that you can do. I would suggest that it would be for everyone. I would not limit it to anybody. I've actually opened up some of these trainings for some of our parents to come in if they were interested, and gave it as an option for them. And then they kind of knew what we were doing as well, which seemed to work out well with some of our staff and parents wanting to come in before or after school. So again, I think that it's very positive. Again, and I think just trying to stretch your money as far as you can. If you're trying to implement a new reading series, you're probably going to spend most of your professional development money on getting good training in and making sure that literacy program is coming in the way you want it, and giving all the options for them to do as many interventions as they can, as well as doing a good job with the original implementation. So I think it's a balance, and different level. Again, at different levels, it's going to look different. At the elementary level, it looks a lot different than it does at the secondary level. Some of the programs include rewards. There are some programs that split the school or district into different houses or teams, and they compete against each other to do things. So again, a very positive deal, and I think trying to get where we need to go. And I think, the bar is a good example, but there are a lot of other examples out there as well. With that, I'll take questions.
Representative Lawley.
Thank you very much. Again, this more goes to process, but is this a subject that should be taken up in recalibration since we're doing it right now and looking at the grant model? I just wonder if it, would be more appropriate, since we're in the middle of recalibration, than us sort of add something outside the model. Your thoughts on that?
Mr. Chairman, sorry, with Madam Chair this morning, Mr. Chairman, Representative Lawley, I don't see a problem with that. I know that one of the things that they were asked to look at were disciplinary issues and school resource officers, and I think it would fit right in with that, with the recalibration. I think that's a decision that you guys get to make, whether you want to bring it forward as a grant program or look at it as something that you want to put into the model.
Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Lawley, for the segue into recalibration. we've had discussions and recalibration about siloing funds to make sure teachers are getting compensated the way they deserve. And there's been a general resistance to categorical grants. This is a categorical grant. It's in the title. Are the school districts reversing direction now we're open to these types of grants? Are we abandoning the block grant model?
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Kennedy, I would say, no, we're not doing that exactly, but I would say that if there's an opportunity to get some professional development in this area, that we would not be resistant for it as well. If it's put into the block grant, again, districts would get to make the decision as to where they were going to spend that money. I can tell you in 2 of the districts that I've been in, we've already gone through some of this training for all of our staff, so it's just a refresher.
Senator Rothfuss.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Over the years in the past, we've done similar things where we've basically tried pilot programs this way, and you set up a little grant program, you allow districts to opt in if they choose to. They have some additional funds, and then we see if it works. I remember we actually did some early pre-K education that way, and have done other programs that way. So I think this is just analogous to that approach. From a recalibration standpoint, it would get swept into a larger pool, and we wouldn't affect any change. We wouldn't test this, right? If we just put money into professional development, we've got a PD category. We could put money into the professional development category. We could put another $1 million into it, or whatever the heck we feel like we're doing here. And it wouldn't make anyone try this program. So I think this is the vehicle. And again, whether we want to do it or not, whether we think this is a good program for us to try and invest in, I think it's a good thing to try, because it's an area we haven't really paid a lot of attention to, is trying to improve classroom behavior through school atmosphere, right? That's new. I haven't done that in the 15 years that I've been on this committee. But I do think this is a reasonable vehicle for it, and then kind of talk about the policy of whether it's a good idea or not. The question I have is, do we have any sense of what this costs? We have just some blank figures here, and if we wanted 5 districts to try it or something like that, what does that cost?
Mr. Chairman,
You know? Okay, Abby says she knows, but you can answer.
I'll defer to somebody who probably has done a little more research than I have recently.
Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, it depends on what program a school goes with, and whether you're looking at a program that is, because some of these would be ongoing programs they might want to trial and then see if they want to continue with their block grant money possibly, or something else for some of these programs to extend past that. Others might be like a 2 or 3 year, like a 3-year investment in those. When we ran some calculations, some of them were like 80,000 per school, except for districts less than 600 students, then the whole district would be counted as a school. And so, and I think there's, I don't have the number of schools that we have like within the, for a year, so per year per school. So with 40 million for 2 years, half the schools in Wyoming could trial these.
Senator Rothfuss.
And following up on that, do these companies have the bandwidth to do that many schools at the same time? I mean, that would be an awful lot. And I was thinking, some small number. And I guess I'd also ask, how many schools have we had that have already done it? I think we had testimony on that. I just don't remember what it was, but trying to get a sense of the scale that would be functional in this state if we were to move forward. Do you know?
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Rothfuss, I don't know that. I know that the 3 districts that I've been in have gone through some of that training already. I'm not saying that, and again, when you start looking at this, you have new staff members, both certified and classified every year that you're going to have to train on it. So it's not like a one-time shot or a 3-year shot. It's something that you have to do every year to get everybody up to speed for it. So I guess thinking of it that way, I wouldn't, it would be difficult to exclude anybody, especially with some of the places that may turn over 50% of their staff in a year.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you. Any further public testimony?
Mr. Chairman, Kelly Bridges is online with her hand raised.
All right, let's go online. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kelly Bridges. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Wonderful. I'm an attorney and I'm a mother of 3 young children, and I'm here to comment on this bill. It's difficult to comment on a bill that does not provide a specific award structure or an amount. Nevertheless, to Senator Rothfuss's question, I actually happen to have some information on hand about BARR specifically from last year. Testimony in front of BARR was presented multiple occasions in front of the Mental Health Vulnerable Adult Task Force. And a quote was provided, at least to some members of the legislature, I believe, and I saw it, for $23 million per year, and that would be to implement it in 48 districts. And I believe that's a 3-year program. My understanding is that BARR is a full system-wide implementation program. So it includes curriculum, professional development, coursework, training, and my understanding from the explanation from BARR is that it is something that is, like I said, implemented across the entire school through all classes. So it's my understanding that it's not just professional development. My question would be, if school districts are spending this money on BARR, would it merely be for a professional development portion, or are they buying the full program? Now on to my comments. I have several concerns with the language of this bill. It authorizes the expenditure of taxpayer money for yet another non-academic grant program for the undefined and immeasurable purpose of quote-unquote student success. What is student success? How is that defined? Historically, I believe success, we all agreed, was defined by reading proficiency, math proficiency, scientific achievement, and critical thinking. But it is unclear how success would be defined for purposes of this bill. Are there objective metrics for this? Is it measured by academic success, behavioral success, or emotional success, or all three? For example, if a student subjectively says that after this program they feel better, is that considered student success, even if their academic performance doesn't reflect any improvement? How do we measure the success or failure of this grant program, or any of the individual programs that may be purchased through this grant system, without objective metrics to measure their efficacy? I think that all results would end up being merely anecdotal or correlative. The question is, can these programs show a direct, objective causal connection between the professional development and the resulting student success? Further, the language of the bill is concerning because it appears to endorse an expansion of the teacher's training and responsibility. And that's how it appears to me. It provides that these grants, quote, shall be used for professional development for school district employees to better understand and build on student strengths, proactively address non-academic reasons why students may fall behind in school, and identify what students need to thrive in and outside the classroom. The bill expands what taxpayers may be paying for in 3 ways. This bill authorizes our teachers to be trained to address specifically non-academic issues. What are those non-academic issues? Are they emotional issues, family issues, identity issues. And now teachers are trained not to address issues once they have manifested themselves, but to deal with them proactively. What does that mean and what will they be trained in? Does this necessarily put the teacher in the position on the front line of looking for and identifying potential emotional, behavioral, identity, or family issues? And is that what our teachers want to be doing? I do know some teachers who are uncomfortable with this. Teachers will also be trained on how to identify what students need to thrive, not just inside the classroom, but outside the classroom. My question is, what does that mean? Are we talking about on the playground, or are we talking about at home in hours before and after school? Before moving this bill, I think the legislature should know more precisely what type of training it is endorsing and committing the taxpayers to pay for. Have we sufficiently identified, have we sufficiently identified the need for any additional money in this area? There has been testimony that many of these programs have already been implemented. In fact, there is already a BAR pilot program in several school districts across the state. By way of example, I think that districts already spend plenty of money on professional development. By way of example, our school district has budgeted more than $150,000 on professional development for the next academic year. I follow our district's budget very closely, and I believe that districts can find additional money for professional development if they make it a priority. Finally, more spending is not the answer here. This bill is presented at a time when the people of Wyoming are demanding lower property taxes and less spending. Therefore, in conclusion, I respectfully request that you not burden taxpayers with further spending for unknown additional professional development. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, my turn. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you do have a couple more individuals online. I've got Jenna Thomas coming in now.
All right. Let's let them in, I guess. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairwoman Schuler and Chairman Andrew. As she said, my name is Jenna Thomas, and I am a parent at Moorcroft Secondary School, and it is a pleasure to speak to the Joint Committee today. And I am here to speak to the benefits that I have witnessed in my own children by attending a BAR school, and how it has specifically helped them become more engaged and invested in their own learning. So this past February, I was contacted by my daughter's PE teacher, and I can say this was the first time in my daughter's educational career that I was contacted by a teacher to express what traits they actually saw in my child, academics aside. And I felt like for the first time, my daughter was seen as an individual, seen for who she is. And this is what her teacher had said. Good morning. At the beginning of the semester, we implemented a new program called BAR. Part of this program is weekly meetings where we discuss students that we feel are excelling academically and socially. This week, Tally was brought up. She is a student who is always kind to her classmates, always does what is asked, goes above and beyond, asks questions when needed, and is just overall a great person to have around. She's a hard worker and always puts forth her best effort. Just wanted you to know that as a junior high team, we all really enjoy having her in our classes. You've raised a great kid, and I absolutely love having her in my class. And I guess for me, it really is this simple. We constantly talk about wanting to create these systemic shifts. And I can tell you that BAR has created a systemic shift within the Moorcroft Secondary School. And I believe that it could across Wyoming. The biggest difference I can see is that BAR focuses on all students, not just the ones who are struggling. And I guess in the defense of teachers in my daughter's educational career, that's probably why I had never been contacted before, because she doesn't struggle. But I do want to note that our children are being raised in a traditional two-income, two-parent household. We hold high positive views of education, and we have high values. And as parents, we thought we were doing all of the necessary things to ensure that our children were successful in school. However, I can tell you that in less than 1 year of attending a BAR school, there was a visible shift in my children's school engagement and their behaviors and thoughts towards school. They became visibly more disciplined and dedicated students. As parents, we actually saw improvements in our children's academic achievements that we didn't even know were possible or necessary. And so I just want to share quickly a short statement from each of my kids. My son was a 7th grader last year and my daughter was an 8th grader. So it was really unique to have a double perspective, boy, girl, 7th grade, 8th grade. But I simply asked them, what has BAR done for you as a student? My son said, it made me feel like the teachers cared. It made me want to try harder in school for the teachers and for me. It helped my grades become better by making me more confident in my abilities. And this is from a boy that doesn't normally say such insightful things. My daughter said, it made me feel happy and supported. It made me want to go to school because I realized I wasn't alone in this boat alone. I realized many of my classmates struggled with the same things that I was struggling with. So as a parent, I could clearly see that when my kids' feelings began to shift about how they believed their teachers were viewing them, their behavior improved. They began to try harder and they were more engaged. They became eager to please their teachers and themselves. And my suggestion is if you want your parents in Wyoming to care and become more invested about what is happening at the school level, implementing BAR into your school system could be pivotal in achieving this. When I reflect on the past year, there was one common denominator in my children's lives that changed, and one change alone, and it was the implementation of BAR in their school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Co-chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Just one question. Do you see these categorical grants as something that right now would be an option for districts to take advantage of? And there might be some districts that would be interested in different programs besides BAR or BAR. But do you believe that this, having it as an option, would be good for districts, the ones that maybe need it for whatever reasons, could take advantage rather than us mandating that it not be a categorical grant, but, that we would convince every district they had to go a certain direction? What are your thoughts on that?
Please go ahead.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I can only speak for what I have seen within my own children in their educational, experience. I feel like that question is outside of my realm of what I can answer.
Thanks for trying.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Thank you. Further questions? All right, who else do we have online?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Haley Bowersax is ready to go.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Haley Bowersax, and I'm a 4th grade teacher at Douglas Upper Elementary in Converse County. It's a pleasure to speak to the Joint Committee today. When people think about student discipline, they usually think about consequences after something has gone wrong. And with BAR, which focuses on building assets and reducing risks, we actually can flip that. Instead of starting with what kids did wrong, we start with what they do right and how we can build on it. Attendance seems to be a consistent theme with many of the testimonies earlier today, and it reminds me of one of my students from last year. At the start of the year, he logged a significant amount of absences, missing a couple of days of school nearly every week in the first semester. He was disengaged and heading down a path that would have meant more discipline and less learning. Our BAR team came together and identified a strength that we could build on. We found out that this student loved Harry Potter, so I started meeting with him during recess to read the Harry Potter series. And slowly, school became a place he wanted to be instead of a place that he avoided. His attendance improved dramatically, reaching 92% the second semester. By spring, he wasn't just staying in class, he was thriving. He even earned the Possum Award from our school district, which recognized his contributions to our classroom community. The rules didn't change. The expectations were not lowered. So when you think about what made such an impact, it was that this student felt seen. Engaged kids don't need constant discipline. They want to belong. Every time a student is sent out of class, learning stops, not just for that student, but for the whole room. Traditional discipline is expensive. It costs time, resources, and instruction. With BAR, we are not just reacting, we are preventing. Our team meets regularly to identify patterns early, and if a student is disengaged, we connect them to an activity, a mentor, or a strength that we can build on. The result is fewer disruptions, fewer referrals, and more time on task. And the bottom line is simple. Engaged kids have better behavior, and BAR helps us create that engagement up front, so every part of the school day runs more smoothly. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you. Is there any more online testimony?
No, Mr. Chairman, she was the last one.
All right, thank you. Committee, what is your pleasure?
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Are there any amendments? Senator Scott?
It seems to me that there's a role sometimes for a categorical grant when we want school districts to do something that benefits some other things the state's legitimately trying to do that are a bit separate from their mission. It makes sense to do that with a categorical grant. It makes sense to use a categorical grant sometimes when we're asking them to do something new that they aren't doing, trying to introduce something new. But this professional development is not new. I've seen grant programs tried before, categorical ones. We actually tried one with the very first bill that gave us the literacy section. And the districts took and spent the money, but they didn't do anything. And it seems to me that here we're asking, we're talking about student success. Well, that is a generic description of the mission of a school district, get the students succeed. So I think in the way our school finance system is structured, that this having enough money to get student success, that's what recalibration is all about. We've chosen to use local control to get it implemented. I don't see any point in this. I think it's just increasing the category, basically increasing the funding under the block grant with the window dressing coming around the other way. And I think that it doesn't really add anything except dollars. And the total dollars is something we'll debate when we debate the result of the recalibration. So on and against the bill.
Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to agree with the good senator here. What we're talking about is money above and beyond what's already allocated. Part of the funding model is for professional development. And it's not a surprise that the districts, when being offered more funds, when they're tight on them, would of course say yes. I'm also glad that there's some concurrence that categorical grants do serve the purpose of getting the districts to spend on what we would like them to spend on. But this bill in particular reminds me of my teaching days in Illinois, my time in schools in Colorado. I've seen this before. This is the latest shiny thing we're chasing. And it's packaged, and they have merch, and they sell T-shirts. And we are telling the schools that we are going to spend X amount of money, and they have to follow this new program, or maybe they don't, because this is the latest shiny object. And the whole thing for me is kind of alarming that we're sitting here in a meeting hearing, we need a new literacy department because our teachers can't teach reading. And we need this BAR program because our teachers don't know how to interact with children. That's what I'm hearing right now. And I'm concerned that we're just going to form a new grant and throw more money at it and not get at the heart of the issues. So I'm against the bill itself.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So I think we can structure this in a way that really doesn't cost that much money and provides a little bit of an incentive to do it. And I'll talk that through in a minute. But as far as my support for the bill, you know, there's a lot of things that we've done really well as an education committee and as a state over the past couple of decades. And we've put forward great standards. We've funded education very well. We've improved our testing. We've done a lot of things. And one of the things that I've observed is the consequence of that has been an erosion of mental health in our schools. And so when we look to the RIDE report that came from the governor's work over the last couple of years, and really the great work that RIDE committee put together, one of the top priorities was mental health of students and mental health of educators. And so we screwed that up. Like, I feel actually partially responsible for that, because putting more pressure on our students to perform better, and they did. They spend more of their time during the day in the classroom, hard at work, trying to learn more and more and more so we can get those test scores up, and they don't have as much joy in learning. And so I look at my kids and I kind of see that. I kind of see that a lot of their world is based on tested performance and not nearly as much on go outside and play at recess and have a good time, right? I feel like we have to address that at some point. And this is a program or a series of programs. It's not just BAR, right? This isn't written with BAR in it, but BAR is an example of a program that would address this. And it's my understanding that there are others, although I really don't know how many others there are. But it's the idea of trying to actually address the wellness of the students, which actually then addresses the wellness of the teachers, right? Those two are related with one another. And we haven't done anything. We spend, $1.7, $1.8 billion a year educating a grumpy bunch of people because we put too much of a burden on every side of the whole system. So I don't know that this works perfectly, but I've heard good testimony that it works pretty well. My thought is trying to get the pilot a little bit bigger. I don't think we would want to, at this point, based on the data that we have, come down with a let's pay for everybody to have a full district-wide BAR program at every school. That sounds pricey, and I don't think we've got it. But having every single district have a BAR school or a whatever other program school, able to engage in it and enticing them to do that, right? Have a carrot, not a stick, so that we can hear feedback from 48 school districts and find out, is this a program that is working statewide next year and the year after that, and then actually evaluate, is this something we should focus on? Is appropriate for this select committee for this committee and not for the select committee over on recalibration, in my opinion, right? They shouldn't be looking at experimental things and trying to change through innovation. So what I would propose, as we're looking at the funding here for this legislation, would be to do a matching grant, because we know we are providing professional development funds already, and we know that some districts have provided professional development funds particularly for this. If we give a categorical grant that pays 25% of one of these programs for one school per district, right? Does that make sense? So we're paying 25% of the program cost, one school per district. If they opt in, they don't have to opt in, no mandates. That's going to come to right around $1 million-ish based on the rough quote that we had a minute ago. So we could put $1 million as the amount of money appropriated. Every district has the opportunity to engage see if it works for them. And then I'm not entirely convinced we have to pay later. If it works for them, they'll use their professional development funding for it. If it doesn't work for them, they won't use their professional development funding for it. So I feel like that system probably works itself out, but it provides the enticement for us to play in that sandbox and see if it works. So that will be my motion, and it's a conceptual motion. And if we need to actually lay this bill back until next meeting, I think that might be in order also, just to get the language right. If people are comfortable with that, I would make that motion afterwards. But for right now, I'll make the motion to amend in the data so that we support 25% of the cost of a program per one school, per school district at their choice, and then have $1 million as the total amount of appropriation for this. And that's my motion, if there's a second. I think she moved it as a full motion. So I've got my amendment motion, and then if the committee wants to go that route and we need more time, we can table it and then bring it back up. But that's my motion.
Discussion on the amendment, Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad that we're seeing some similar issues in the schools. The grumpy people, the increasing expectations, the pressure on teachers to perform on the test, the pressure from teachers on kids to perform on the test. But I think we're going in two different directions on what we see needs to happen. Talking with members of the WEA, looking at the surveys, hearing from district superintendents, I'm hearing they want less direction from us, not more. They don't want more guidance. I'm hearing they want more academic freedom. They want more ability to do what they need to do in their districts. And I don't think a prescriptive measure, even a well-thought-out proposal, the idea of the carrot and offering them possibly the resources if they would like to go that route, is the direction to go. I think the direction for us to go is to, if we're going to stick with the block grant model, is to not start veering off into categorical grants, because then we're setting the precedent that we think if it's a really darn good idea, now it's okay for the state to do this. That if the districts would like to follow the BAR model, that they do have professional development funds and they could use them. They should have the ability already to take their money from the block grant and then pursue that route if that's the route they would like to go. I don't think a bill's necessary to do that, though.
Further discussion. Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would prefer maybe a 50% match from us, but if 25% moves us forward, I'll add $1 million. I think that is a step in the right direction for this bill. I don't see this bill as prescriptive. I see this bill as opportunity, and it's opportunity for the schools to try something. We hear again and again that we have behavior problems, we have attendance problems, we have all kinds of different issues, and the teachers are asking for help. And I know there's programs out there that can be put into place to help. We heard from a teacher and a parent today, and they said, this is preventative, not reactive. Everything that we do is reactive. And I can tell you from having worked in an environment where we were constantly reacting to things, and then I said one day, we're constantly reacting. Can't we start preventing? And as I saw a change from preventing to reacting to things, it made a world of difference in the workplace, a world of difference in the workplace. We also heard that students said they felt more seen, even successful students. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, and I don't know who to attribute this to, but it's, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And students are gonna be the same way. They don't care what a teacher can teach them until they know that the teacher cares. And I think that teachers do, but they're facing some burnout. And I think that this is one tool in the toolbox that we can help with. And to be very honest, I was skeptical of something like this until we went and visited the school. I had my 4th grade son with me who was having some issues in his own school where he had said to me a night or two before, I wish I would have just been suspended from school. And we went and we visited a 4th grade class, which he happened to be a 4th grader. We're sitting in a room, all these adults talking about kids. So when we got done, I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what the perspective of a child is on this. Because a child will always give you their good perspective. And so I said to my son when we got done with that, I said, what did you think of all those adults sitting around talking about the kids? And I phrased it to him just like that, because that's what was happening. And he said to me, you know, Mom, I really liked how they focused on how they could help the students be better. My school could really use something like that. And that was the moment I went from skepticism to knowing that this is a very, that this is a tool that our districts and our teachers need to be able to have access to and use. And I think that this is a way for us to stand up and support our teachers by saying, hey, look, we've, in our districts, and we're saying, you guys have got some money, but we'll match a little bit of that money for you to try something that just might help address the needs that you guys are asking to be addressed. On and for the bill.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no? No. Chair is in doubt. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The motion fails. We are back on the bill. Is there any further amendments to the bill? Any further? Yes, Senator Rothfuss.
I would just note that it needs to have some numbers in it. Right, that was an example of how it could be numbered, but it isn't a bill that's ready to vote on without an amendment with dollar values, so we probably kind of need to pass some amendment so that we can vote on the
Is there
bill.
one you'd like to propose?
I don't know if,
No further?
okay.
Senator,
Well, I just want a clarification, Mr. Chairman, because I missed it. What was the motion on the bill? Was it to move it forward to the next meeting, or was it to sponsor the bill?
Senator Rothfuss.
it was Senator Brennan's motion, but it was a motion on the bill.
Oh,
Okay.
no, the previous motion we voted on was your motion.
No, not the amendment, the original motion that put the bill on the table.
I'm sorry, yeah, that is the motion to work the bill.
To work the bill.
Yeah, and so the motion that's on the table is to vote whether we carry the bill on. I guess we would be at the passing the bill out of the committee at this point.
Yeah, well, it really matters, because if we're just moving this bill forward to the next meeting, we don't necessarily need this number plugged in. But if we're voting to sponsor this bill, then we absolutely have to plug something in here, to Senator Rothfuss's point.
Withdraw your motion. Yeah, withdraw your motion and then move to.
I'll withdraw my motion and move that we carry this bill forward to the next meeting.
All right, thank you
And I
for
will second.
clearing that up.
Yes.
Thank you. So is there any discussion on moving this bill forward to the next meeting? Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a hard no on that. I don't see the point of that. Even if we do, as a committee, put this through, this is dead in the Education Committee on the House side anyway, I could already tell. So it'd be a waste of our time. We should just drop this today.
Further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The bill has not been carried forward to the next meeting. All right, we are somewhere here in this agenda, if I can pull it up. It's time for lunch.
Yeah.
All right, no, do we have another one? No, okay. All right, we are at the order of business of State Superintendent of Public Instruction policy discussions.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Dickie Shaner, Department of Ed, here to speak on behalf of Superintendent Dagenfelder. Mr. Chairman, the remarks that she intended to make today were mentioned by me yesterday when we read through our sort of response memo. I'm happy to reiterate those, but they were the ones in the memo that we provided that was called the response to JEC inquiries. And in the agenda packet, it just says response to committee requests. And if you go to page 2 of that, you can see the summary. So it was homeschool and ESA participation in middle and junior high activities, Steamboat Legacy Scholarship Act age requirements, withdrawal notification to school districts, and participation in classes at a public school. And Mr. Chairman, since I already went through all that, I'd just be happy to answer any follow-up questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Lawley.
Well, I wanted to follow up on the discussion concerning particularly the things that were in the superintendent's guidance on the homeschool issues, and whether or not the committee might want to move forward with some bills that address that those guidance areas or not. There are bills being drafted that I asked to be personally drafted, but just wanted to present those as something that the committee, we can look at them in November and make that decision, or we can have them brought forward on a motion now for them to prepare them as a committee bill. So that's kind of what I wanted to put on the table, because they go directly to the guidance that was offered by the superintendent on some of those issues. So if you, again, with permission, we can move forward with that one by one. There's 3 bills in particular, but again, I think maybe we just see if the committee would rather wait till November and see the bills in front of them to decide whether they would want them to be a committee bill or not, or they want to have them drafted as a committee bill, I think is the issue of the day.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else for Director Shaner?
No.
Senator Scott.
Did attempt to ask yesterday, in the federal reconciliation bill, that great big bill that passed in July, there's a tax credit program that would fund through federal tax credits contributions to a scholarship program. To your knowledge, is there anything in there? I understand we have to have some kind of a state approval before that can take place, before donations can be received. 2 questions. One, is that going to require legislation, or is the federal law written such that a governor can deal with that, or is that uncertain? First question. Second question is, are we going to need to do any legislation in the 2026 budget session as opposed to waiting to the 2027 general session. I understand the program doesn't start till 2027, but if we have to have legislation in progress on the 1st of January passed before then we got to do it at the budget session. So is there something there that this committee needs to do to get a ball rolling? We have to respond to that federal initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Senator Scott, the way that federal provision is written is that if there's not a state law directing authority over that program to someone other than the governor is the default. And as far as I know, there is no law speaking to that. So the governor is charged with the decision on whether or not Wyoming opts in to that program. And you're correct, it's a 2027 program. So I would anticipate the only need for legislation in the 26 session would be if the legislature wanted some other entity to make that decision than the governor.
Mr. Chairman, does the superintendent have a position on that issue?
Mr. Chairman, through you, Senator Scott, not on the issue of whether the governor has the authority or not, but she believes Wyoming should opt into the program.
Mr. Chairman, has the governor expressed an opinion on that issue?
Mr. Chairman, through you, Senator Scott, not that I'm aware of. I know he's thinking through it, but I don't think he's made a decision.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comments? Seeing none, committee directives.
I think, let's just see if they want to do that. There's no use going through a lot of it if there's no interest in doing it now or waiting till November, we have drafts. So I think that's really the question.
Representative Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, there are some bills to address these homeschool issues in particular that have for some districts become a bit of a frustration. I think in most cases, the activities issue, school boards did the right thing, I think, in continuing their historic practice and their historic interpretation of the statute. But having had questions raised about that statute, there is an easy fix on the activities, one sentence. So, and that's a bill that's being drafted. The other bill relates to a policy question we should wrestle with concerning whether or not the offering of classes, since we have a pathway for reimbursement for those classes, if the public schools choose to allow homeschool students to take those classes, but it is voluntary by district whether or not they offer that, whether or not on some constitutional basis of consistency, for example, district to district, whether or not homeschoolers have the right to only, if it differs by where they live. If I live in this district, I can take classes, but if I live over in this district, I can't take classes. I think there's some constitutional questions of whether or not there's a consistency there. And also, I think there's issues constitutionally of access, like at what point does the homeschooling your students deny you access to the free public system, as long as there's reimbursement back to that district. So there's a bill on that to consider whether or not we require districts to give classes at least at a certain grade level, offer opportunity for classes for homeschoolers for which the district would be reimbursed as it is now. So that's another bill. And then there's a third bill that does try to deal with the issue of what we talked about a lot today, actually, which is the compulsory education statute and the requirements it puts on districts annually to report. And that it's about a census of all kids that within the age group of the compulsory education statute, and whether or not there should be, by homeschoolers are exempt from that, but to get that exemption by a one-time notice that we're homeschooling, we have to do it every year, but a one-time notice that we're opted out of that compulsory education. Homeschoolers are opted out. So those are the three bills that are being prepared by LSO right now under just my personal direction. But the question was whether we wanted to consider them as committee bills. I totally understand. If I was in your shoes, I'd probably say I'd like to see them before I decide that. But not so much if we want to consider them, but if we want to have them drafted as committee bills to look at in November as a committee, or if we want to just proceed with what I'm doing, and then maybe in November, look at them and see if we want them to be a committee bill. So.
Madam Co-Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was actually going to ask Tanya where we are in terms of what we've asked for thus far. And I think that would probably have a lot to do with whether I would like to see him next time or as committee bills. I don't know. Do you have an idea on where we are? I know workload, we got to kind of take a look at what you guys have got.
Yeah.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairwoman, bills to be considered at the November meeting include the following: 26 LSO 0094, that's the Hathaway lump sum bill that the working group will come forward with. There'll be substantial revisions to that. 26 LSO 96, that's the use of Hathaway scholarships at private institutions. Again, there's a working group associated with that. 26 LSO 0092, that's the reading assessment and interventions. The working group will come forward with recommendations on that. 2688, that's the public school discipline to incorporate the WDE's directives and Superintendent Jones' amendments. A new draft to create or at least fund positions for literacy division as recommended by the Department of Education. A new draft on charter schools as directed by the Charter School Authorizing Board. A new draft on the Hathaway to change and to or with regard to GPA and performance on the academic tests. And then a new draft to increase Hathaway to those amounts that were specified by Representative Lawley. So it's eight drafts. And I think this meeting you had 9.
Representative Lawley.
And this actually is to Tanya. So I know we've talked briefly about where we are on the bills I had asked for, that obviously we're behind these committee bills for today, that we did this meeting. Where exactly are you on the drafting of those 3 bills?
Yeah, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Representative Lawley, 2 of those bills are complete. The third one is in review.
Sorry, Senator Rothfuss.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. I think that ends up being a lot already, and I'm a little worried. Again, we're going into a budget session, not a full session. I'm a little nervous about adding even more. I do think for example, the new bill, which we haven't even considered yet, the and/or bill, which is simple from a bill drafting standpoint, is actually complicated from a cost of dollars standpoint, because just changing the and to the or dramatically changes the number of eligible people and increases it substantially. So it isn't just as simple as the bill is going to look. I guess I'd be wary to add more bills to what is already, I think, a steep agenda.
Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, my question is, are there real problems with any of the districts refusing to take homeschoolers for particular academic courses, or is this more of a theoretical problem that may arise in the future? I'm trying to figure out, is it something we have to deal with in a budget session, or is it a general session issue?
Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great question. I haven't done a survey all the way around, but in the districts in which it was brought up about beginning to exclude homeschool students in middle school sports, it was accompanied with the idea of also classes. So the resolution, for example, in 2 districts in my House district, was to allow the activities at least for this next year. And then, but on the side of the classes, they decided not to offer any classes. Both districts did. So I don't know if that's a pattern for other districts that may have been, the board was kind of required to decide what to do, when recommended to make a change. But it does seem to be that there is a little pattern there. So there are districts that are right now next year, at least 2 in my district, that will not offer any classes to homeschoolers under the classes, but they are allowing the middle school homeschool students to participate in the activities that the middle school offers that correspond with sanctioned activities by the Wyoming High School Activities Association. So,
Representative Bratton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do know that in Carbon County, one of the school boards initially proposed that they were going to shut the students out of, the middle school students out of band and some other services that they were being reimbursed for, and they said it wasn't about the money. They were just mad about the politics of it. They recanted when the community went before the school board, but it was a split decision. So this is definitely hurting families, hurting students, not to have this particular issue clarified.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to
Representative
make a motion that we at least do 2 of these, because I don't know if they're the 2 that are done yet, but I think the 2 most important deal with clarifying the intent of Wyoming Statute 214506A concerning activities participation by homeschoolers, or it's actually not even homeschoolers, but kids in the district that are not enrolled, that it clarifies that it includes middle school activities. And again, that's a 1-sentence fix. I do think it's something we need to address because it's now been brought up by a number of districts, and it appears the decision in the districts, in my district, was for next year. And so I think that's a pretty important one. I think it's not going to take a lot of time, and then I would also then move that we consider drafting as a committee bill to look at in November the issue concerning the policy of classes, and just begin to talk about it. What is our feeling about that? Because it is impacting homeschoolers in these districts. Because again, I believe almost everyone that this came up in concerning both activities and classes had that split decision, as Representative Bratton mentioned. And so we probably need to speak to it. I mean, whether we decide it should stay up to districts' discretion, whether they offer them or not, we need to, I think, speak to it, because I've gotten a lot of feedback from homeschool families on this issue of the classes as well. And I think there's some discussion in that area on whether it should start at a certain grade, as opposed to all, K through 12. But so there is some discussion there, but those 2 I would move that we have drafted as committee bills and look at in November.
There's a second. All right, any discussion? Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I certainly understand the intent, and I know, I see both sides of it. I see right now where we're in litigation and there's not anything moving. I don't see it as big a deal, but then again, if districts are making these decisions, then we probably should have some clarification. My worry is time, and I would be okay if they were drafted, and then if they were put on the bottom of our priority list and we get through all these others, then I would be okay with sponsoring, as a committee. But I just know these guys are shorthanded as it is in the LSO, and The priorities that we put forth as a committee, I think, need to be, prioritized at the top of the list, but I certainly think those are important issues as well. So that's just my thought.
Further discussion? Senator Rothfuss.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. On against the motion, I'd probably co-sponsor those bills as individual private bills. I think they're both good bills, but third meeting, new bill drafts, in my opinion, my experience, is generally a bad idea to begin with. You need the time to finish up the bill drafts you're working on and not have to hurry through public comment for those bill drafts. Adding the other two, I was nervous about even adding those two because, again, new bills third meeting is generally a bad thing, but we've already done that. Adding two more just doesn't seem like a good idea, but again, they're pretty simple, pretty straightforward. A House member, you've got 7 bills. These sound like 2 good ones. Send me a bill request or an invite to co-sponsor.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion carries. Where are we on the agenda? That's not it. School discipline. All right, we are adjourned.